Welcome back to, I guess, the third episode for season 2 of Pomelo Pitch Deck. I'm pretty excited. We did another one a couple hours ago with Jesse from the EOSBs, and we looked at, a kind of a Discord management tool that will help, communities self-organize last week. So for the third one, we actually have Larz from... I just realized I spelled your name wrong. Larz from, everywhere, really, like EOS Go originally, Facings, and now
EOS Detroit, and then EOS Detroit, then Facings, and now I have a company I'm doing with Adam Matheson-Sword, the guy that I did a lot of the Garbage Pail Kit art with, called Mirror Pool, and it's more or less just like a kind of like an NFT art co-op.
But this is kind of your baby, and you're back for round 2 of Pomelo with Immutable Realms, which is, I guess an EOS-based zine. I'm actually going to pull it up because it's kind of cool what you guys are doing. But just tell us a little bit about the backstory of the Immutable Realms and the whole purpose of the EOS zine. We covered it in season 1, so you can go back and watch that. But just for people who might have missed it.
Yeah. So this kind of goes back to more or less my interpretation of like the entire blockchain space. I'm just not a developer or a smart contract engineer. So like my expression of all this like revolutionary technology is pretty much through art. And that was like, that's kind of what I bring to the table. And that's kind of how I think I have a role to play in this space. And, actually back, do you remember Steemit? When they first finished their SPS, like work proposal system, I was like right off the bat, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to like try to get like a comic funded. And, and it was kind of like a humbling kind of experience that kind of left me a little salty because it actually started this big controversy. Immediately people on Steemit were like, the community was like, that's not what a work proposal system's for. It's for development, blah, blah, blah. Now, this was before NFTs had become what they have become now. So in some ways, I'd like to think I was ahead of the curve on that one, and people just weren't ready to accept that like art projects could be funded through a proposal system. And I kind of felt like it was a missed opportunity. And it didn't reach the threshold to get funded. So I just kind of moved on with other things. Now we live in this world where NFTs pretty much, dominate the entire space, at least from a mainstream point of view. Most people know more about what NFTs are than what blockchain is anymore, like in the uninitiated audience. And, so now I feel like there is more legitimacy or validity to, where art plays a role in blockchain. And so anyway, I did submit this proposal for Immutable Realms during Pomelo season 1. It didn't get funded, and in many ways for the same reasons. I think it was just most people that had money to contribute or put money into projects were looking to more or less support development projects and things like that. So my hope is that with season 2 of Pomelo, most of the big projects like Aaron's projects and things like that, they got funding. And now I'm hoping people are more ready to kind of consider like an art project or a zine project, like what I'm doing, as like a viable necessary source of funding for like the community. Because my last part on this rant is just that like if there's anything I feel like we need right now in the EOS community, it's like marketing. Like we need to reach people, and we need to like kind of tell some narratives to like kind of like, not just for like the uninitiated group of people, but for ourselves too. It's been a pretty rocky few years.
Right. Yeah. And like, I think, so it's interesting to me because if we look at some of the other EOSIO blockchains, they've really done well with things like NFTs, and they've done well with this because of the marketing that's inherent within the value of those images or in those games, right? And EOS has always been this kind of tech stack that we've looked at to solve the world's problems, to build the future on. that nobody's really using because there's no marketing. And I think it's quite an interesting conundrum to have, right? And so yeah, I'm gonna pull this up because I think this is cool, and I think I like your rant. And we had this season 1 discussion, I guess, a few months ago, and I liked what you were doing. I actually funded your proposal as much as I could, along with some others, but I didn't get it actually until today. I saw the website with the pictures, but I still didn't get it because I don't even think people get this, because this is really flipping cool, man. This is a Zine that you did. Why don't you explain it? But
yeah. Okay. So this was like a marketing tool I used for a photography event I held in Los Angeles and Minneapolis in 2014 called Noir, and it was all just black and white photography. So rather than usually what I used to do, I'm like an old punk, so everything like I used to do to like market things was like little flyers and shit like that. And I used to do zines. This was the first one that I did, a zine that was like both digital and physical, you know, because when I was making zines back in the day, it was like Office Max, Kinko's, like, you know, you'd come in with a hard copy that was all like pasted down, like with like, you know, cut out pieces of photocopy paper and shit, and it looked rough and it looked awesome. And then I'd print 1,000 of them and then I'd like just hang them out or pass them out or whatever. That's how I used to do things. And this is a digital version of that, but this was through a company called Issue that I found. I'm probably going to try to find a better solution because this company kind of went on to a subscription model and got really greedy, and I just on principle wouldn't use it anymore. But yeah, if you click left and right, you can see how it'll kind of turn the page, and every little page of it kind of explains a different aspect of the event, the photography event. And I mean, it did great. In both cities, this sold out, and these little zines actually ended up becoming like little mementos of the event. Like, I know a lot of the clients that I think we had like 26 clients for the LA version of this over 2 days, and they actually still hold on to it as like a little keepsake, or you know. So my hope is to do the same thing with you know, like Immutable Realms, is basically have a physical version and a digital version. But my idea is like with the art and the comic stuff I do, you know, telling narrative stories about EOSIO through comics. Like, this is something I could see being embedded into like a Medium post or something. You know, something that like while you're scrolling through a Medium post about like transaction speeds and things like that, you might stop and be like, oh wow, here's like this story about how, you know, EOSIO was this like dragon elder god that basically spawned all the, you know, little tribes of like Fio and, you know, and like Proton and, you know, and Wax and things like that, and how they're basically all the same under this, you know, under the same creator, or Genesis. And then you know, it's just kind of got like a more entertaining way to tell the story of EOS and EOS.
I just have to say, like, EOSine definitely needs a meme of a, you know, hard-boiled man with his hand down his pants. I just
yeah, you think, are you saying I should like approach some of the prominent figures in the community and try to do photo shoots like that of like Eves?
No, I like it. And so like I said, I didn't get it, right? Like, I got it, but like, to me it read and please don't take offense to this. I just didn't. I don't think anyone did. So I want to point this out. When you did it in proposal 1, it read more like it was comic, right? Because a lot of the art that was based, there's a great image that you have of one of the first things that you created, which is basically the tribes, the EOSIO tribes, and they're all kind of standing there. And again, if you go back to the first pitch deck we kind of dig into that a little bit more, and I think it's valuable, worth watching again after this, because now if you think about it, and it's not just a comic on a paper or a comic on a website, but something that you can actually flip through, and it's interactive. And I mean, this is a public service because you're not planning, as far as I know, on charging money for this. You're going to create this and put it out there into the world as a marketing kind of tool, and different projects will be able to actually incorporate this into their website and have a flippable, scrollable, issue of EOSIO promotions, essentially, right?
That's the idea. And also, like, there's if I reach the funding, I really have two tiers of funding of what I would consider, like, basically, as far as the ambitions of each one, like a 10,000 and a 25,000 basically goal. And for the second, the 25,000, I'm actually looking to hire writers, and there's a bunch of people in the community that are kind of like editorialists. My friend Mark Bailey is a great writer, and he's written a ton of great stuff on EOS and blockchain. He actually was the guy that got me into blockchain. Nice. So he's got some. And then you mentioned Jesse from EOS Bees. Like, that's the other thing too, is like I actually hired or went through EOS Bees just to get my translations for my Korean and Chinese translations for the proposal. So it's like that sort of thing. It's like force multipliers where, like, community goods that also kind of hire other people in the community and create an even broader ecosystem of like employment and things like that. But yeah, the good itself is just meant to kind of just tell some of the drama and achievements of what EOSIO has been able to do in a more entertaining way, a way that kind of like normal people that do not care about witnesses or block producers or transaction speeds or resource management, like normal people would be like, oh, this is kind of weird and interesting and captivating. It pulls you in a little bit. So like, yeah, I kind of think of it almost like part anthology, and then part, just kind of like editorial sort of reading material. Like when I'd
say in terms of like incorporating people in the blockchain as well, like you said earlier, like a lot of the things are based on what developers create, but a lot of times the most brilliant developers out there have trouble selling that to the general populace who knows nothing about blockchain, right? And if we do that in a fun way, I mean, which airline commercial would you rather watch? Would you rather watch like some boring airline commercial that tells you to put on your seatbelt, or would you like to watch like some awesome, R&B dance Virgin Airlines or Lord of the Rings, New Zealand?
New Zealand, they have a
play,
like,
right?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that as an example. When I was flying New Zealand right before the pandemic, it was like my last big photography tour. I was like blown away by that. Their like commercial was so good. It was all like Lord of the Rings shit and everything, and I'm a huge Tolkien nerd, so I was like, oh, right. This is great. But like, for example, like one thing that just popped in my mind as you were like kind of riffing on that was like, Aaron is a perfect example. Aaron's done such great work with, like, I mean, that was my first wallet access to the blockchain, was Anchor. And like there could be, even in the zine, just like a 1-page sort of quick with photos, like, or with screenshots, basically how to set up and use Anchor, right? Like how to use the wallet, how to import keys, things like that. And then if that ends up being the thing that gets shared to a new user, and there's like 16 other pages worth of like comics and things like that or whatever, like that will hook people. Like that'll keep like new users figuring this stuff out. I did a comic for EOS Detroit like maybe about a year and a half ago that was like all about, remember when we went through the big resource model change? I did a comic on that where basically it was this guy that was like walking up to these like kind of entities that were like hologram projections on the wall, and it was a whole story about the resource management change. And I think we actually issued a bunch of those as NFTs now I think about it. But like that's kind of a good way to get a new person in the space to wrap their mind around like resource models, which generally to someone who is not a blockchain aficionado is kind of boring.
Right. And we have this, thing in the space that we do where we just publish a bunch of words and we expect people to read them. And that doesn't happen in in the real, well, I guess it does happen in the real business world, but the products that the majority of people adopt for their businesses are flashy commercials. They might not be the best developed products, but they're flashy business commercials that they see, that they look into, that they find, and definitely we have a little bit of a lacking across the whole cryptocurrency space, but I think definitely in EOS, because over on Wax or maybe on Ultra, we get some really talented people doing art that gets people's attention, right? But like you said, building a wallet isn't really that sexy, but like we could make it sexy by putting it into some format that would engage and entice people, right?
Right. Well, and that's even I would even remove myself from this kind of fundamental principles, like even if it's not me that ends up getting funded or whatever, like this space needs this. Like it needs somebody to basically effectively tell the story of all the hard work that's being done by people like Aaron, because it's like if you're in here and you're in that club and about all that shit, it's like you're already excited about it and everything, but it's like it's really not doing much to pull people that are not in space in.
Right.
So that's kind of it. I mean, like really what I'm planning on doing with the zine is basically just, I'd love to, bring on a few people that I consider like community pillars that kind of, actually like, my friend Brandon, like just like caught me up because I went on a like 10-day drive to Texas and back. I had a bunch of shoots there. So I missed like a few things and he brought me up to speed with some of the like the newer things like that are being proposed and talked about and everything. But like he also filled me in on Fuck Horse. Do you know about Fuck Horse?
I don't know about Fuck Horse.
Oh man. So apparently there was like some kind of AI. I'm not sure if Aaron, but there was like this AI algorithm program that sort of would kind of like propose names based on like your input. Like so you'd put an input of like what kind of project you're working on and it would propose names back, and and then it'd give you a reason why it picked that name. And I guess one was like something about Genesis blah blah blah, and it's like this is a Genesis protocol because of this reason and it's the first blah blah blah. Well, it spit out one of them. It spit out was Fuck Horse, and I guess like overwhelmingly like people in the community were just like, oh my god, it's got to be Fuck Horse. Like the new name for EOSIO as far as like a protocol needs to be Fuck Horse. But like that is just such fertile ground for like a comic. Like I can immediately see a million ideas in my head on like how we turn Fuck Horse into a comic.
Hey man, so you got me really excited, and this is always why I love meeting with you. I mean, this isn't even a pitch deck anymore. It's just like two dudes hanging out, and it is a pitch deck. But I always love meeting with you because I agree. There's something about that, creative energy that you dive into that I really do resonate and appreciate. So of course, people should go and donate to this proposal that is live or will be live in the next day or two, up on Pomelo Pitch Decks. But I think that you brought up something that I also want to say, like you're doing this as public good and you're trying to get the funding to do this. And most of us in this space are very lacking in bandwidth because we're focused on so many different things, right? But there are a lot of people in the space, as you say, that aren't necessarily developers. They might be writers. They might be, people who are good at art. So definitely donating EOS is good. But is there a possibility that if someone like me, for example, who just spent all day putting together a how-to guide on wax.io cloud wallet, were to reach out and people could like collaborate with you in terms of like giving art or telling a story, is that something that you're open to as well, to try to push this out? So
yeah, I mean it's an open source project, really. So it's like, I mean, like of course that has to be curated down, but like, I mean, anyone that has ideas, I'd love to hear them. I'm Kommienezuspadt on Twitter, spelled just like it is here, and on Telegram it's well, actually I'm not sure if it's exactly like it's spelled here. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, on Telegram I'm just made in 80, and someone stole my name on Telegram. But yeah, I mean that's when I was working with Facings. That was a learning experience for me because I tended to always be this like kind of I used to think of myself as like this one man show that could do the photos and write the stories and do whatever, and like managing a team of artists at Facings like made me absolutely fall in love with like how beautiful it is to collaborate with other people who have like a really high standard. Like I think maybe that was my problem. My critical problem back in the day was just that like people weren't as seriously invested in the art and the project as I was. So I was disappointed with like the work. But like through Facings and like that amazing team that we worked with to put out all those NFT sets, like Dark Pinup and everything else. They're like the Strange and Unusual one was one of my favorites, but like these are just people like Schwartz Baca, and our friend Eduardo and my friend Adam Matheson Sword that did the I think that might have been along the way how you and I met, Jimmy, was like through the Garbage Pail Kids stuff. Back in the day when we were doing stuff for Tops, we were doing Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah, but maybe the first time very early, yeah.
Yeah, very early. But yeah, that's been such a great experience, and that's kind of what I would like to kind of foster and sort of encourage with like the Immutable Realms zine.
Yeah, so I'd like to propose both. I actually went over and checked the proposal because I was going to vote for that already today.
Is it live yet?
I don't think it is actually. But I'd like to propose both, and I think this is a really interesting opportunity because if you have some ideas to contribute and you have some EOS to contribute, then by contributing both, you might actually get paid for those ideas in the future.
Totally.
Now there's a freaking pitch deck for you. Like, I'll take my 1% on the side when I make it, to wherever you are. But I think it's really interesting, and I'm actually kind of excited after having Jesse on the show earlier about the potential for paying it forward to people who are actually putting their voices and their talents on the line in order to promote something that they believed in, since the beginning. So yeah, hats off to you, Larz, because it's a tough battle. Sometimes I would imagine.
I will take this any day over just like working in a Wells Fargo cubicle. So
yeah, fair enough.
But I do have for anyone watching, I do have I'll be on the pitch deck later today during the fireside chat at 3:00, I believe. I'm not sure if that's Eastern or Central. I think it might be Eastern. But yeah, they invited me to come on, and so I'll be pitching again there. If anyone
and that'll be good. Like if anyone's watching this back in the next few hours and you have any questions specific to Larz and what he's doing and the Zine, you can go in there and you can interact with them directly, which is the nice thing about the fireside chats over in the Discord.
Yep, and as cool as that is, I'm glad you had me on because I get to show off the studio, and that one's actually just all audio. So thanks for having me on again.
Right. Anytime. You're always welcome on any show that I ever host. As long as, you don't shoot me someday when you wake up and you walk out in your front lawn and I happen to be, camping in a tent there, because that's probably what's going to happen to me. At some point, I'm going to take the show on the road and we're going to do great things. Thanks, Larz, for joining us. Tune into another pitch deck. We've got a few more coming up next week, maybe over the weekend. And
cool.
Go and support your favorite projects. Speaking of Aaron, they don't have that many EOS that has been donated to them. I mean, for the Grey Mass wallet, but I was in there today and I looked at it and I was blown away by the amount of quadratic matching that actually is happening this season. It's nuts, right? Like,
yeah, it's so cool.
Really good. So one EOS goes a really long way for 10 projects that you appreciate and enjoy, and it helps the whole ecosystem out. So,
yep. Thanks, Jimmy.